Hi, how can you best take care of yourself while you're on chemo? Let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Elaine, and I was diagnosed with uterine serous carcinoma last August. Since then, I've undergone chemo and radiation, and I've come up with some ways to take good care of myself while I'm undergoing treatment and while I'm recovering from treatment. Okay, so here we go. First of all, your skin. With me, my skin got very dry after I started chemo. I mean, just like desert dry. So I had to be very conscious of moisturizing my skin. And even lotion wasn't good enough. So I used a bath oil after getting out of the shower, and that helped some. With my face, before chemo, I had this skincare regimen that was pretty extensive, but while I was on chemo, I wanted to just use the basics. Now, if you've got a skincare regimen and your doctor says it's okay to keep doing your regimen, then keep doing it. But I just chose not to. So I did like an oil cleanser because my face got very dry. And then I would put on a moisturizer, very simple moisturizer, and that's it. My essence and face scrubs and exfoliators and all that stuff is waiting for me, but I want to get a little bit further away from chemo before I start using those things again. Okay, so what about your hands and feet? Now, with me, if you have serous carcinoma, then more than likely you're going to have the same chemo regimen that I had. And one of the chemo medications, Taxol, can cause neuropathy. And the way to avoid that is to ice your hands and feet while you're receiving the infusion. And most infusion centers will have ice for you, but you can also buy ice gloves and ice socks on Amazon. They're not that expensive, and they will keep your hands and feet very cold while you're receiving chemo. As a matter of fact, when I used my ice gloves and socks, I had to wear just regular socks to kind of block some of the cold. It was just a little too cold for me. Now, one of the good things about chemo in my hands was it kept my cuticles really pushed back, and I didn't have to do any cuticle work other than putting oil on my cuticles to keep them moisturized because they were very dry. My suggestion would be that you not cut your cuticles while you're on chemo, if you do indeed cut your cuticles. And you might consider foregoing the extravagant manicures. For one, sometimes the color of nail polish will interfere with the pulse oximeter. And that is that little thing that they put on your finger to measure the oxygen level, measure your oxygen level. And with some colors of nail polish, it will not be accurate, or it won't read at all. Now, I've never had a problem with nail polish and the pulse ox, but I chose not to do my nails while I was on chemo. Okay, and also another reason why I didn't do nail polish while on chemo, even if I could get good pulse ox readings, is the nail polish remover is incredibly drying for my nails, and they were already dry, so I didn't want to add to that. So what about your hair? I don't have a lot of credibility in talking about hair. I chose to shave my head. And as I said in another video, preserving my hair wasn't especially important to me because I already had alopecia with bald spots, and I already wore lace front wigs. So losing my hair was not a big deal. But if losing your hair is a big deal with you, there are ice caps available that will either prevent or minimize hair loss. So you have that available to you. With your oral health, continue your oral health the same as you have, brushing your teeth, flossing, all that. You might want to keep some baking soda or some hydrogen peroxide handy in case you get sores in your mouth. I did not, unfortunately, and I did try using some baking soda as a preventative measure for mouth sores, but the taste of it, my taste really got altered while I was on chemo, and the taste of baking soda was just so unpleasant that I didn't use it anymore after I did it that one time. So, try it out and see. It may work for you, it may not. So, but it will help prevent mouth sores and help treat them if you get them. So with your digestive health, you really want to take care of your tummy. The medications given for nausea can sometimes cause everything to slow down with your regularity. And with me, it takes very little to slow things down. So I spent some very unpleasant weeks while I was figuring out how to mitigate that slowing down of things moving through my colon. And a couple things helped. One was that because I started experiencing neuropathy, or numbness and tingling in my hands and feet from the Taxol, the dosage of the Taxol was decreased. So when that happened, the irregularity got better because I had to take less of the nausea medication. And also, I started leaning heavily on the foods that keep me regular. And that also helped. I also figured out how to take the medications I was taking to keep me regular, such as Colace, which according to some studies is not effective, but I used it, and also Miralax. So sometimes I would start the day before chemo of taking the Miralax. Some folks start the week before taking Miralax. Whatever works for you, and you might have to experiment a little bit. But I hope you don't have those unpleasant days like I had, because it can get bad. Anyway, with your health in general, give yourself permission to rest. Because chemo can be very fatiguing. And if you try to keep the pace that you kept before you were on chemo, you may find yourself struggling. So if you need to rest, rest. If you can't go out on Friday night with the girls, with the guys, you can't go out on Friday night. You just have to rest. And I've spent a lot of time resting and granting myself grace with that rest. You also need to advocate for yourself, for your general health. So if you start experiencing numbness and tingling in your hands and feet while you're on chemo, and you may not, but if you do, say something about it. If you start experiencing pain while you're receiving chemo, which happened to me when I very first started to Taxol, that I had really severe pain in my lower back, and the nurses had to stop the infusion. This is on my first infusion. They had to stop the infusion, give me a little bit of Benadryl to kind of quell the reaction, and then start again. And I'll tell you about that in another video. And also there was one infusion where I started experiencing nausea while I was getting infused. I said something about it, and I got some nausea medication in my IV, and that helped. But if I hadn't said anything, and you wait until it's too late and you're already having an active stomach upset, it's very hard to pull that back than it is to take care of it while it's happening. And finally, with your mental health, it's really related to your general health, but I decided to separate the two. Grant yourself grace. As I said, grant yourself grace to rest. Grant yourself grace to do things more slowly. Even after you receive chemo, you still might experience fatigue for a while. A nurse told me that it can take up to 6 months to get back to your regular self. So, this isn't just something, that you do and then you jump up and it's over and like nothing happened. These are very strong medications, some stronger than others. I can't address the chemo used in breast cancer, but from the videos I've watched, there are some very strong medications, and taking strong medications has an impact. So I'm not quite a month out from my last chemo infusion, and I'm still experiencing fatigue, and I have to just work with it. And also, you need to ask for help. You might need some help with preparing meals. You might need some help with, housework. If you have children, you're going to need some help with your kids. You might need a friend to go pick the kids up from school. Sometimes, especially, that week after your infusion, that might be the most eventful week for you, the week where you need the most help. And you also need to plan ahead as much as you can. So, after you do an infusion or two, that week after the infusion, that nothing tastes good except ramen. So you might want to stock up on some ramen for that week. Or that you're not going to feel like cooking, so you might want to make some meals, put them in the freezer, have them ready for that week where you don't feel like cooking. Or what else? You know that your child or your spouse has a special event coming up that you really want to be present for. So you plan your rest time around that, so you have the energy to do what it is you want to do. So those are just some of the things that you can do to take care of yourself while you're on chemo. If you have questions or suggestions of things that I might have missed, please put them down in the comments. And if you want to continue this conversation about chemo, please subscribe to this channel. I'll talk to you later.